right, welcome everybody. I'm Lucian Fogoros, broadcasting from Cleveland, Ohio, the headquarters of IIoT World. We are a decentralized organization, so everybody works from home. Today, we have a number of great sessions. And before we get started, I just want to take a few minutes to sort of go through the logistics, right? As you're accustomed with our events, we like to make sure that you folks get your questions answered. All the speakers are live, so feel free to leverage the Q&A to post the questions where the speakers will be basically looking to answer them. In the chat, if you could take a few moments and tell us what you hope to accomplish today. I'll tell you a little bit why we started this IIoT World Days, also this particular event, how it came about, and then we go on to this particular session. So we started in 2020 with IIoT World Days. We currently do about 6 of these events, anywhere from a couple of them focus on manufacturing, one on energy day, one on industrial control systems, cybersecurity, smart cities, and smart buildings. This particular day, All Things IoT Day, evolve out of a study that we've done in September with one of our partners, which you're here speaking today, and it was around the protocols used in manufacturing. And we were thinking about doing perhaps a spark plug day, but they were going to be too narrow. Then we looked at IoT Reference Day, and we came with this concept of All Things IoT. So it's going to be an interesting day because you're going to hear perspective from analysts that study several tens of thousands of companies and what the CEOs talk about it. We're going to hear about influencers. We're going to hear from end users, some of the pain points. And as Singularity University, Salim Ismail mentioned, if you try to innovate in a large company, its immune system will eat you alive. You're going to hear some large company, how they innovate. So with that, I don't want to take any more of this time. Enjoyed the day, and I'm going to turn over to the moderator for this session, Fabio Bottacci. Welcome, and thank you for moderating today.
Yes, Lucian, thank you very much for the introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm Fabio Bottacci, and actually I'm based in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where I've been living and working for more than 20 years. But I think you can tell from my accent, I'm Italian. And I'm the founder and CEO of Vinci Digital. And since 2015, 16, I've been focusing industrial IoT with my company as a strategic advisor. So I will be the moderator today of this first session. And I'm very grateful to introduce you, Philip Wegner, which is an analyst at IoT Analytics, a company that I really know, so for been knowing for a long time. We will be presenting the first session about what CEOs talk about the first quarter of this year. Okay, and please, any question, do use the Q&A. That will be our way to interact at the end of Philip's presentation. Philip, it's with you.
Thank you, Fabio, and thank you, Lucian, for the introduction, and thanks for having me. Before we go into the results of the quarterly analysis, what CEOs talked about, some background here. So we have this quarterly analysis called What CEOs Talked About, where we have gathered more than 56,000 earnings calls. In total, more than 4,500 US listed companies are in our database with earnings calls, or rather the transcripts of the earnings calls from end of 2018 until this quarter, basically. And we constantly track hundreds of keywords and sentiment every quarter, and try to understand what are the recent trends. We count the number of keywords that are used, the types of topics that companies talk about, and every quarter we publish the blog post here, first time in 2020, and also a little report that you can find on our website, where we highlight the most recent results. All right. If you go to the next slide, Fabio, please. Thank you. So this is the lead image that you might know from our blog post that we post on LinkedIn and our website, where we show you see 2 axes here. You see the keyword importance on the horizontal axis, So really, how often is a certain keyword mentioned by CEOs, or rather in earnings calls, transcripts, where C-level discusses topics with financial analysts. And then you see on the vertical axis the growth index, we call it. So how much has the usage of a certain keyword changed compared to last quarter. And then we try to find topic clusters, certain themes for every quarter, right? So then you have on the top right corner, basically topics that are high and growing in importance. For example, of course, this quarter we have the economic uncertainty, which I grouped here together, like keywords is inflation, recession, interest rates, and then uncertainty itself is a keyword. Inflation being the most used keyword basically here in our list, with like 70% of all earnings calls mentioned that keywords. Right, and then we have the sustainability topic, which increased still in the last quarter, now between 20 and 10% roughly, sustainability and emission. We have the shortages, so supply chain issues, which decreased this quarter a bit, but still high, still around and above 10% for the keyword shortages. And then we have the labor market, which is kind of an odd situation where you have the keyword layoff is mentioned a lot by CEOs, and increased actually quite a lot by 160%. But at the same time, you also have the keyword attrition and salary, which still increase. So it's a kind of a weird situation for the labor market. Those are the macro topics basically on the right, and then you have the smaller but still important topics, the tech-focused topics. This quarter, of course, ChatGPT, Industry 4.0, I called it here, even though you could also maybe call it industrial IoT related use cases. And then a topic that declined this quarter is the Metaverse. And we're going to talk about each of those little clusters now a bit more in depth. Fabio, could you get to the next slide, please? Thank you. So when you look at the economic uncertainty, the keyword recession, for example, here mapped throughout the quarters from Q1 2019 until Q1 2023, you see a huge peak of usage of the keyword recession in Q2 2020. So when the first COVID lockdowns hit the world economy, 31% of all earnings calls were discussing the keyword then. And then it basically fell all the way down to zero again. Even in 2021, people were discussing it less even than before COVID. So kind of no one had that on the radar that the recession could hit the world economy again. And then you see this very interesting trend of CEOs of big American banks. First of all, in April 2022, the CEO of Bank of America said, our economists do not have a recession predicted. Then a couple of months later, JP Morgan said, a mild recession might be a possibility. And then just now in January, the CEO of Bank of America said, our baseline scenario is a mild recession. So, and now we have actually a new peak in usage of this keyword in Q1 2020.
Philip, sorry to interrupt you. They warned me that the slides maybe are in low quality, so it's difficult to see the detail. Okay. You can improve that, but I mean.
I don't know how to improve it right now, to be honest. Anyway, the key message here is that economic uncertainty as a topic, basically peaked during the COVID lockdowns and now peaked again. And if we go to the next slide, another part of this economic uncertainty is the topic around the discussions around interest rates, right? And here I mapped the usage of the word interest rates with the actual federal funds effective rate, which is the rate set by the Federal Reserve Bank of the US. And you really see that there's a high correlation. So when the Federal Reserve Bank, started to increase the interest rates, also the CEOs, of course, discussed this topic. And it seems to be, for some, this is actually a big, significant headwind in their earnings. And Elon Musk, for example, also accused the Fed of increasing the interest rates too far and too strongly in last October. Next slide, please. So now we leave the topic of economic uncertainty and jump a bit to sustainability rather. And here the basic, the key learning is that sustainability as a macro topic is actually gaining importance all the way since Q1 2019, where only 10%, roughly a bit less, even talked about sustainability. And now it's up to more than 20%. However, you see those declines in, for example, again, Q2 2020, where maybe the C-level had different focus during COVID than to talk about sustainability, but now since then it's up to 20% again. And I guess two reasons are mainly can be held accountable for that. First is that many big companies pledge their sustainability goals, like for example CEO of IBM here in July 2021, but then for example also Cisco and Wipro both highlighting that climate and sustainability is something they try to bring into their products. And for example, the Cisco CEO said, we see IoT exploding because the climate activity is going to be a tailwind, because you need to connect all those industrial systems to actually measure their emissions output.
Philip, sorry, there is a question live. I mean, does sustainability and the other index here has been affected by the war in Russia, or you see this correlation, or not at all?
For the keyword sustainability, I'm not sure. To be honest, I would have to double check, maybe a cross reference there. But where we see it, of course, is energy prices, right? And that's actually a nice. And we also in former blog posts, we also talked about the keywords Russia and the war and Ukraine increasing quite a lot. I don't have it in the presentation today here with me, but it increased, of course, I think in the last year quite a bit. Yeah, people discuss that, and people also discuss energy prices and the shortages, and of course the war itself. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Yeah, so about shortages, about supply chain issues, basically. Here we saw that this is a topic that actually decreased in the last quarter, and energy prices here is actually also a keyword I put into this shortages group. It increased quite a bit, but now it's decreasing again, right? And basically, maybe really quickly on this slide, we saw a small peak for the shortages, for the supply chain issues during COVID, but actually in Q4 2021, this really increased quite a lot. And this, for example, the Rockwell CEO talking about persistent electronic component shortages, high levels of demand, and low supply. ABB talks about logistics chains being difficult in early 2022. And since then, actually, because of CEOs really focusing on supply chains, for example, the CEO of Honeywell saying, the supply chains are getting better, and this keyword is declining slowly. So people are looking less often at those supply chains and shortages, right? And then the maybe really quick on the next slide, the labor market. Again, a nice transition here. We have the first, and now we see the mentioning of the keyword layoffs by industry, by sector, right? So during COVID, industrial sector was using the keyword quite a bit, was talking a lot about layoffs. And since then, this has turned, actually. So in Q1 2023, it's mainly tech companies talking about it. And what is also not surprising is that energy companies didn't mention the keyword layoff at all, right? Because if you look at the energy prices, they have little problems in hiring more people even. And because of the time constraints, let's jump right to the next slide. Lucian, yeah, thank you. ChatGPT. So obviously the big hype topic, number one hype topic this quarter so far. And just showing this graph here on the left, it's basically from 0 to 2%. The opinions about it, of course, a bit different. We have Elon Musk saying it's scary good. On the other hand, we have a CEO of OpenAI and, for example, the chief AI scientist of Meta saying, it's great, but it's also, there are some it's not something you should use in production as of now. It's also not particularly innovative. And just today, actually, we released a trend report on generative AI. So if you want to learn more about actually also what generative AI and ChatGPT maybe would mean for the IoT especially, check out our website where you can buy the report. Right, and then to the next slide. I have only 2 or 3 left, so I'm going to be very fast on this one. Just to highlight, again, by a sector here, who talks about generative AI, who talks about ChatGPT. It's not industrials, really. It's not energy companies. It's mainly tech companies, of course. And you see, of course, CEO of Microsoft, he's all over the place, all over the ChatGPT as of now for this quarter. And you have companies like IBM, Alphabet, and Meta who try to figure out how to jump on that kind of generative AI train, how to make the best out of it, and they're discussing it in the earnings calls, while other industries not yet really focus on use cases there. Right, let's jump to the next slide. Industry 4.0, and you could also call it industrial IoT, right? But those topics really got a boost in Q1 2023. With industrial automation, for example, the Schneider Electric CEO mentioning seeing good growth industrial automation in general, because also supply chain constraints are gone, or like getting less of a problem this quarter. And then other CEOs, other C-level executives talking about how much predictive maintenance, how much machine vision actually might help to lower costs in this inflation, with the inflation going on. So that's actually a boost we're seeing right now. And remote monitoring, of course, the peak year in Q2 2020 was mainly because of COVID, when people decided to use other technology instead of traveling somewhere and remotely monitor assets, but also systems or something. Right, and then the next and last slide, and then I think can go to Q&As about the metaverse. It's a nice little story of a keyword. When Mark Zuckerberg rebranded Facebook to Meta in 2021, and also pivoted his whole company to this kind of concept, the keyword shot up from like basically 0% in 2020 to about 2% and even more in 2022. The CEO of Microsoft talked about the enterprise metaverse, industrial metaverse, and how this is going to be used in smart factories, smart buildings, and so on. But really, since then, the keyword kind of left the discussions again. And that shows 2 things. Once the CEO of T-Mobile here kind of summarized this, it doesn't matter if you believe or not into the metaverse right now. It's more about the technology behind it, like immersive 3D experience, are going to stay. You might not call it metaverse, but they are going to be they're going to be an opportunity and demand for those kind of technologies, and they are going to stay. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Great, Philip. Thank you very much. I encourage all the participants to use the Q&A, and waiting for more a direct question from the attendees. I just try to break the ice. Philip, we saw, as you say, the two different groups of, let's say, subject, more macro trend and technology one. But I think that what's important, specifically when it comes out from the CEO and the C-suite, the boardroom, apart from the importance or the growing of the word of the subject, is the action that they are taking up on these themes. So, in your opinion, what do you think between all these mapping, this theme will be the action in the next few months this year that the CEO will pursue? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's why it's actually important to look. It's very insightful to look at the big picture, like at all companies and all sectors at once. But it's also very interesting to look at different sectors. For example, when we talked about ChatGPT, you can see in generative AI, it's tech companies that talk about it because they want to sell a product based on those technologies, and only little number of industrial companies are yet talking about it. So it's really it's something you should watch, like which sector is actually talking about, who is using those keywords. Is this something that mainly the suppliers, the vendors of the technologies are talking about, or is this something that is a widespread distribution across all kind of industries? For example, the cloud, the keyword cloud, which we didn't talk about too much today, is something that is around 14 to 20%, depending on the quarter, and that's something that is distributed across now actually all sectors. Everybody is talking about this. That shows you, okay, this is some technology or maybe a paradigm that is actually something that is adopted across all the industries.
Thank you, Philip. I think we are on time. If there are not any more questions from the audience, I really appreciate your presentation. And I think that now, Lucien, we are going for the next panel.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes,
Please.
thank you. For see you the next panel.
So we will have a presentation of several players, actors in the field, and involving also what's the main hype today. So AI startups involved in the industrial IoT world. So enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.